week on You Magazine, we'll show you how you can tune in yesterday and listen to the golden age of radio.
Harold Rush helps make contemporary radio what it is. He's a radio producer who got his job by writing letters and poetry. And we'll visit the big leagues at the Italian Sports Hall of Fame. Hi, I'm Peter Karl. Welcome to another edition of You Magazine.
And I'm Sheila Gibbins. Chicago author and playwright John Powers will be along later in the show.
You know, Sheila, every time you turn on a radio, it seems to be an adventure.
That's because you never know what you're going to find on the dial.
And being in electronic journalism, I've really grown to appreciate the radio, not just because of news and information types of shows that are available, but because the radio can create some really interesting effects. And those effects are very particular in shows like the old mystery programs.
The effects in those shows, like The Inner Sanctum and The Shadow, came
Only
from...
the shadow knows, you mean?
Exactly. It came from your imagination, and that was what was so effective about them. I used to love listening to my father tell stories about The Shadow. If you're one of those old radio buffs, we've got just the program for you. It's called The Golden Age of Radio. Here, I'll show you.
Hearts of men. The shadow knows.
This is WNIB Chicago 97 FM. Chuck Schaden, Saturday afternoons from 1 to 5 here with our Those Were the Days program. And we have a goodie for you now.
They all owe him something, this group. The Maltese Falcon, Oscar, Charlie McCarthy, Mortimer Snerd, The Shadow. They don't need Captain Midnight's secret decoders to figure out that it's people like him who've kept them alive.
That's Academy Award from Wednesday evening, October the 30th of 1946.
For 14 years of Saturday afternoons, an enthusiastic Chuck Schaden has been taking his listeners back to those thrilling days of yesteryear when radio was king. Surrounded by memorabilia and a collection of more than 42,000 programs from the golden age of radio, Schaden broadcasts to a loyal following from his small studio in the back of a store in Morton Grove.
The magic of radio is your imagination. Without your contribution to the radio program as a whole, there is no radio. Of course, we're referring to the golden days of radio. In radio, the people behind the microphones created the voices and the sounds and the music and the sound effects, but the people on the other side of the receiver had to create the picture. You had to participate. You and I can be sitting in a room together listening to a program, Fibber McGee and Molly, the closet, the hall closet crashes open.
Oh, I know, I left right here in the hall closet.
No, don't open that door, McGee.
And what you see come crashing out of that closet is going to be different from what I see come crashing out of that closet. And so it can be as crazy as I want it to be. I can describe Fibber McGee's house to a T from listening to those old radio shows now and in the past. Radio is much more personal than television because the listener is really a part of it.
Tell me, Mr. Moody, has the housing shortage bothered you any?
Yeah, that's why I had to leave the farm, Bob.
Really?
Yeah. The land was so poor, you'd have to use 20 sacks of fertilizer to raise a tune on it. I didn't see no water for 20 years.
20 years?
One day it rained.
Yes?
When the first drop of water hit me, I fainted.
Yes?
Yeah, they had to throw 2 buckets of dust in my face to bring me to.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Yeah. Have you been fooling with this car, young man?
No, sir. But may I make a suggestion?
No, you may not. What is it?
Why don't you turn on the ignition?
Turn on.
Chuck Schaden's passion for radio started early.
This is a snapshot that was taken of me when I was a kid, about 4 years old. And I enjoy the picture because there I am sitting on the floor in front of the Zenith radio, which is where I did, if you will, all the background work for the material I do now for a living.
Schaden is convinced that there is a sizable market out there for the kind of quality programming produced during radio's golden age. And it's based on more than just nostalgia.
The biggest surprise, and a very pleasant one I might add, are the calls from people who are 12 years old and 15 years old and 20 years old who never had a chance to listen to radio, but who have discovered it. And they said, my gosh, I thought radio was all music or all talk or all news or all sports or all this or all that. They didn't realize that radio had the ability to entertain with drama and comedy and adventure. We have over 5,000 subscribers who pay for our Nostalgia Digest. So there's an audience out there for it.
Despite this audience, most of the money and talent once available to produce 14 hours a day of live, quality radio programming has now all been channeled into television. Schaden understands why this has happened, but he doesn't believe it has to be this way.
There is a market for new time radio. I think the public would like to hear it. But you got to have confidence.
In addition to his radio work and the bi-monthly Nostalgia Digest, Schaden also runs the Metro Golden Memory Shop on West Irving Park Road, where cassettes of vintage radio programs are sold, along with other kinds of memorabilia.
The best part is your mind, your imagination can go off, you know, and they could never show anything as scary as the monkey's paw on television, because when you heard it on the radio and you saw it in your mind, you've pictured something far more horrible than they could ever show on television, you know. So the mind is such a better screen.